Number 10. Jake the Snake Roberts. Referred to as many as maybe the greatest superstar to never win the WWE Championship, Jake the Snake Roberts is a legend throughout wrestling and beyond. However, Jake was one of those wrestlers who never needed to hold a title to prove how good he is. His singles matches alone are legendary and were good enough to sell out arenas worldwide. He was often accompanied by his infamous Snake Damien in his corner, and with Jake's heyday being in the golden era of WWE, this was mostly a time where Hulk Hogan dominated the main event scene and WWE Championship. Nonetheless, Jake would feature in numerous memorable storylines and go on to win the majority of his matches, beating the likes of Kamala, Brutus Beefcake and Randy Savage. You can be sure he would have left his mark on the WWE Championship. Number 9. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Another all-time great, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time. He was an innovator for his time with his high-flying moveset and technical skill set. Everything from in-ring psychology to his facial expressions to his look, he made a legacy for himself in the 70s, 80s and 90s. With his good looks and charm, he remained a babyface for his entire career, wrestling several villains, always with great matches as a result, even shocking audiences during the twilight of his career with his matches against Chris Jericho. However, during his peak, he enjoyed success with his tag team partner Jay Youngblood, and they were one of the first Hawaiian wrestlers to make a real impact in wrestling. Steamboat has had numerous classics under his belt with the likes of Ric Flair, Steve Austin, Jake Roberts, Randy Savage, and many more, especially in his match against Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3, which is still looked upon as one of the greatest WWE matches ever. It had great chemistry, fluency, and elegancy that any WWE champion requires. Number 8. Christian. Christian is arguably on the best run of his career right now in AEW as the TNT champion, and is one of the most deserving men on any roster to have never won the WWE Championship. Captain Charisma Christian Cage has every tool required to stand the top of the mountain, and has proved it on numerous occasions. Fans fondly remember his feud with Randy Orton and his World Heavyweight Championship win. Christian is also a former TNA World Heavyweight Champion and even won the WWE version of the ECW World Heavyweight title, but was never given an opportunity as WWE Champion. A possible reason for this has always been the rumour of how Vince McMahon hated Christian's face, even going as far to suggest to place a blue dot over it whilst on TV. Now in AEW, Christian is once again proving to everyone why he's one of the all-time greats. Number 7. William Regal. One of the all-time greats in the ring, a ruthless villain who was a technical master, William Regal should have been the first ever English WWE champion. However, sadly the cards never played out that way. Regal has often been featured mostly through the mid to upper card, clashing with the likes of The Rock, Kane, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho and many more. Regal has even been the general manager of Raw twice, in a role that would see him defeat CM Punk to become the king of the ring and start to take over Monday Night Raw, where it was rumoured where he was scheduled to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. However, due to a wellness policy violation, Regal would end up suspended, killing his major run at the time within the WWE. Regal would go on to win a number of mid-card titles, but was never given the opportunity as WWE Champion. You could have been sure Regal would have nailed the role if he had been in the right headspace, but unfortunately this wasn't the case, and Regal will go down as one of the all-time greats never to hold the WWE Championship. Number 6. Mr. Perfect Curt Henning. Mr. Perfect Curt Henning was remarkable in the ring, often putting on a showcase with various opponents throughout the AWA, WCW and WWE. His matches with Bret Hart in particular were pure class. The pair would clash over the Intercontinental Championship in some of the greatest matches you'll ever see. He is often described as one of the best in-ring technicians of his generation, and everyone fondly remembers the Mr. Perfect gimmick, and is still praised to this day. Mr. Perfect featured heavily throughout the 80s and 90s during the time that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart dominated the main event scene, but Perfect proved each and every time that he could hang with the best, and would have made a perfect WWE champion. Number 5. Rowdy Roddy Piper. Regarded by many as the greatest heel in wrestling history, Hot Rod Rowdy Roddy Piper was a trailblazer throughout his career. His over-the-top antics and character would drive audiences against him, even as far as death threats. Piper was an outstanding performer on the microphone and had an uncanny ability to talk audiences into arenas, even having his own talk show, Piper's Pit, which featured countless memorable moments of its own. Piper was the perfect fit at the time for Vince McMahon's WWE, with a roster heavily featuring babyfaces. Roddy Piper was the ultimate villain. His feuds with Ric Flair, Greg Valentine, Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, Rick Rude, Andre the Giant, and many more helped make Piper one of the most recognizable and respected stars in the industry. Piper brought an attitude and edginess to the world of professional wrestling that predated both ECW and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, another case of a legend who never needed a title to help establish himself. Piper proved time and time again that he was one of a kind and would have made a rowdy WWE champion for the ages. Number 4, Booker T. All hail King Booker, perhaps the most decorated black wrestler in the history of wrestling. The former 5-time WCW champion made history in 2001 as the last ever WCW champion before jumping ship to WWE, where he would instantly be placed into the main event angles with the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Kurt Angle, and more. Booker has had success in several organizations, including WCW, WWE, and TNA. He would go on to win the King of the Ring in 2006 and end up beating Rey Mysterio to become the World Heavyweight Champion in one of the most memorable runs of his career as King Booker. Fans still remember this fondly, as Booker proved time and time again just how good he is in any role given to him. Entertaining, charismatic, athletic, and a legit badass, Booker T was the perfect all-rounded wrestler who would have made for a memorable WWE champion for sure. Now can you dig that? Number 3, Vader. A genuine monster of a man that was extremely agile for his size, Vader amazed audiences with his brute strength and athletic high-flying ability. From literally crushing opponents to diving off the top rope performing moonsaults, Vader often seemed unstoppable. He would put on countless memorable matches with opponents of all shapes and sizes throughout New Japan, WCW, and WWE. His brutal battles with Cactus Jack to entertaining spectacles against Shawn Michaels, Vader could adapt to any situation with his amazing abilities. He would capture the New Japan and WCW World Heavyweight titles. However, towards the end of his run in WWE, Vader's career seemed to take a dip, as he was underutilized after feuding with The Undertaker and Kane. He would go on to leave the WWE shortly after losing a mask versus mask match to Kane, yet Vader's track record alone makes him a monster world champion in any organization. Number 2, Razor Ramon. Another underrated star was the bad guy Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon. He put on some of the best matches in WWE during the early 90s with the likes of Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, and others. He has held the Intercontinental Championship on several occasions, putting on several legendary matchups, such as his ladder match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10. Once a beloved fan favourite, Razor used his gimmick to win over fans, and his eventual move to WCW showed more glimpses of how great Scott Hall really is, forming the iconic NWO faction alongside Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. Razor would challenge for the WWE Championship, but always came up short. He would never end up winning a world championship in any organisation, and drug problems would hinder his chances as time went on. However, his impact on the business will always be remembered, and as one of the greatest characters in WWE's golden era. Number 1, Owen Hart. One of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, Owen Hart passed away way too soon in a freak accident at WWE Over the Edge pay-per-view in 1998. Owen was of course a part of the legendary Hart Foundation and family, having trained in the Hart Dungeon, and proved himself to be one of the most charismatic and technical masters on the mat. Owen was always compared to his brother Bret, and would go on to carve his own path through the WWE. Owen is often remembered as a bright spot for the WWE at a time when business was down. Owen was one of the world's best professional wrestlers during the 1990s, capturing several mid-card titles and being featured in numerous storylines. You could for sure envision Owen rising up the ranks similar to how Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho and others during this time period had done. However, sadly tragedy struck and took Owen away from us far too soon. Owen would have numerous classic matchups during his time and would even pick up a win over his brother Bret at WrestleMania 10. Owen would have been a beloved WWE champion, much like Eddie Guerrero, but nonetheless, his memory will live on forever.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.